Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Tim, got an interesting topic for us today. We got a question from one of the men in the inner circle. We'll call him Chief. And what he asked us to talk about here on the podcast was, and these aren't his exact words, but the whore Madonna paradox. Right, between that and going into that in detail and directly how that relates. Now, this is something that, to give you guys some background, a lot of men actually encounter in different areas. But I believe the whore Madonna idea was coined by Sigmund Freud, I believe. I don't know that to be true, so don't quote me, guys. But I think that's where it came from. And this whole idea of the whore Madonna paradox, or complex, or whatever it's supposed to be called. The whole concept of this is basically, you want a whore and you want the Madonna, right? The motherly figure. And what happens for a lot of men is their wife becomes the Madonna, right? Their wife becomes this woman who they respect, they admire, they love. And that's all good things. But that happens for them. And because that happens for them, they no longer are able to see their woman sexually, specifically sexually, in the way that will fulfill their needs, right? For example, a man might say, hey, look, my wife won't give blowjobs. It's my wife, so I go out and see somebody else, or they're watching porn or anal sex, or maybe it's bondage or whatever their fantasies are, right? That's for the whore, and their wife, she can't do that. She's a good girl. So they often seek outside the marriage, or they get drunk, right? Their wife and them get drunk, and then they have anal sex, or, they have slam her against the wall or choke her a little bit type sex, whatever it is. It gets rougher, whatever their fantasies may be. And they need the alcohol, because with the alcohol, the inhibitions go. Their whole mental framework of their wife being this Madonna, this woman they hold on a pedestal, is able to slip away. And typically what the men report is they're starting to have, amazing sex. Their wife thinks it's amazing sex too, by the way. And why is it, and it's a rhetorical question here, Tim, but I'll let you kick in. Why do you think this occurs for guys, and what do you think they can do about it?
It's very interesting. I was reading here about this as you're talking about it. Why do I think this occurs? Honestly, I think a lot of it, or some of it, I'll say, comes down to the guy. And obviously there'll be certain things that the woman may, if they've had kids, she may be less confident in her body and so on. Because the particular question as well is, why does this tend to come out more, as in the sexual side, when there's alcohol present, right? And does it have to can it only be there when there's alcohol? And the answer is no, but just using alcohol, alcohol example, right? I think it's the easiest one to paint. If you think about the times when, let's say you go out on a date with your wife and you guys have a couple of drinks, and then you guys get home and you have this kind of sex that Doug was talking about a moment ago. If you were to break that down and look at what's happening there, there's certain things that are going on. One of them is that there's been some excitement that has been created about the upcoming evening, right? You guys are going on a date, maybe you're meeting some friends, you've not met them in a while, you both are looking good, you're excited, you're kid-free, and who knows? Maybe you've even taken charge of the situation, and maybe you've even arranged this date, and maybe you have even said, hey, honey, I'll take care of the babysitter. Don't worry about that, right? So there's adventure there, there's mystery, there's excitement, right? So that starts to set the scene. Then you guys are out together, right? Both looking good. And maybe she then sees you come alive, right? There's some women around, and she starts to see that playful side of you as you start talking with the other women and maybe even some of the other guys, right? You start to have some banter and you start to have a laugh and you start to really just be the guy that she kind of fell in love with, right? But the guy that's maybe been lost a little bit because you've got kids and you've got responsibilities and everything's nice and neat and fits into a box. And, you know, so she's then starting to see that side of you, and you're looking good because you've maybe bought a new shirt. Maybe you're wearing some new clothes. Maybe you've even been working out because you knew that this date was coming 3 weeks ago. Friend you've not seen in a while, and you wanted to make sure you looked good. So maybe you've been working out as well. And then you sat across from one another at the table. You're having dinner. The drinks are flowing, and you're laughing with one another. You're joking with one another. There's not much talk about the kids. Maybe they come up, or how the kids doing. Yeah, they're doing well. But there's not much talk about the roles and responsibility of the relationship, right? Instead, it's talking about how the good times that you and this other couple used to have. And you're reminiscing about holidays you guys went on, adventures that you had. And you're talking about bucket list places where you'd love to go next. And you're getting out your phones and you're looking at your calendar and, you know, looking at trips and maybe even getting some prices and look, you know, there's excitement there, right? You guys then get home and this moment of passion happens in the bedroom, right? And part of it as well is because you feel more confident. One, because of everything that's been going on during the evening. You felt like the man, and you're looking good and you're feeling good. You've been working out before. But then also the alcohol has lowered your inhibition, so you don't care about the rejection. So instead of going in there tentatively, you go in there for the kill, right? And also you're aware that you just know, hang on, this is going to happen tonight. You can feel the energy and the connection between you guys. So the idea of you being rejected, it's not really on the cards. You're very confident you're going to get what you want. And honestly, you don't even really think about being rejected. You don't really care. So you go into that interaction with certainty. You go into it with an energy, and you take what you want, quite honestly. And guess what? She responds. Because women want to be led, pure and simple. So the reality is, all that can happen without alcohol. You've just got to understand what's going on, and you may have to work a little bit harder without alcohol at times, but it can all happen without alcohol. And in my opinion, chances are for most guys, in terms of the Madonna complex, chances are most guys, the woman they married, they also had some great sex with as well in the beginning. That'll be part of the reason why they stuck around, because the sex was so good. Might not have been the best they ever had or the filthiest they ever had, but I'm sure it will have been pretty fucking good in order for you to keep going back for more and want it again and again and again, right? So I don't know if that answers your question fully, Doug, but I hope that helps.
Yeah, so it's not really my question as much as this guy's. So I'm going to go a different angle here, and talking about this is the pedestal that so many of us guys, when we get married, put our wives on over time, especially when our wife has kids. We start to look at our wife as the mother of our kids. Then oftentimes, this is my dime store psychology, but we start to impose some of that, I guess respect would be the word, or admiration that we had for our mother onto the mother of our kids. And as that happens, many guys slip into the good guy syndrome, right? Where the relationship's shaky, we're frustrated, maybe the sex isn't happening as much, it's not as good, because partially we have our wife on this pedestal. So we start doing more around the house until we blow up, and sex becomes very infrequent, or it's very vanilla, to give you an idea. And a lot of that is because of that Madonna complex that we have, is we really are assuming our wife doesn't want to do that kinky stuff in the bed. We're assuming, we look at our wife because we see her in sweatpants and everything else around the house. We see her as the mother of our kids, right? The woman who is taking our kids to soccer practice or whatever else it may be. And we also have given her power, so to speak, in the sense that when we need love, we go to her for it. just like we did our parents or our own mother. This is where she becomes the Madonna. And when we have this Madonna complex, we start thinking, okay, well, my wife, of course, is a good woman. She's taking care of my kids. So therefore, ergo, only bad girls, give blowjobs on the car ride. Only bad girls enjoy anal sex. And we start creating the story, which creates separation in the marriage, right? So now we have a paradigm here, right? If I believe that only bad girls have anal sex, then either my wife's a bad girl or a bad woman or a whore, or right, or I just don't have it with her. It's one of the two. And so that we don't see the blur here, or really the mislabeling. It's a lot like racism, quite honestly. If we assume that all white people, as an example, are going to be, just say white people are going to be greedy. I'm just making this up, right? Because I'm white, it's easy not to offend myself. But say all white people are going to be greedy, and that is our assumption, then we're going to be missing out here, right? We're going to be missing out on great relationships. We're missing out on a lot of things. And this is what happens, to this guy or other people a lot in their marriages. And we don't realize that your wife is craving this stuff, right? She's craving this for you. I've said it a million times on this podcast, but 50 Shades of Grey is a bestseller for a reason. Guys, if you haven't read 50 Shades of Grey, I'm not saying you have to, but get the Audible or read the Cliff Notes and then see how many millions of copies were sold, each year. Millions upon millions. I don't even know what the exact number is, Tim. I don't know. I know you're looking on the internet right now. Maybe you can pull it up, but it's tons. And perhaps you think about that, a lot of these women are moms. And why are they reading 50 Shades of Grey? Because they're craving this carnal passion in their lives. It's missing because so many men have made them the Madonna. And it's also forcing the guys to turn to porn. It's forcing the guys to go outside of their marriage and use escorts, hookers, strip clubs, sex, etc. Tim just sent me the number. 15.2 million copies of 50 Shades of Grey have been sold. Absolutely amazing, right? 15.2 million. Let's just say 0.2 of those are men. It's 15 million women walking around reading a book about S&M, right? And bondage. And so when you have this whore Madonna complex, what you get to do is change your paradigm about your woman, right? You get to realize that she wants sex as much, if not more than you do. Society's been telling her as well that she's got to be the good girl, right? She's the mom and etc. And none of this is dirty. You need to really look at your patterns and your languaging around sex. 125 million copies of the series of the 50 Shade trilogy.
Series, yeah.
Yeah, that's 125 million people, right? Reading, I guess. Not all of them reading the same, but you guys get the idea here. So you get to change your label, the way you look at your partner, your wife, right? She is a lot freakier than you think she is. And one of the reasons she might not be freaky to you is because one is her own sexual hangups. And we're going to do a podcast here next on something like what did you do when your wife hates her body? That'll be the next one coming up. But also, what are the stories she's been told about what it is to be a good woman, right? Maybe she doesn't want to talk to you, or does she just want to give you blowjobs in the car because she knows she has a hint of image that you think that only women or whores would do that, or bad women. And if there's just a slight detection of that in your tonality, in your voice, she's going to pick up on that. And she's going to pick up on that. And she is not going to do any of that fun stuff with you. And guys that are in our programs, we do a deep dive in this in our sexual mastery course. So if you haven't checked that already, make sure you get access to that sexual mastery course. It's included for you guys that are in the brotherhood and the inner circle. But these are things that women have been the labels that have been put on women have been so driven into them that if you even hint that some kind of sexual promiscuity that a woman is doing is dirty, that your woman, your wife, is not going to show up for you in a big way. And if you're not showing up as a secure, powerful man, she's also not going to feel secure to show up in a big way. So all of these things are intertwined. So the first thing you can do, right? The first thing you can do, guys, is look at your stories. How's your languaging around this? Are you calling another woman a whore or a slut for doing something, right? Maybe Maybe there's a woman that's in your life that's cheated, right? Or something else, a friend's friend, or done something, and you've just told your wife, yeah, she's such a slut, or the way she dresses is so slutty. Things like that your wife's going to pick up on that. So really watch your languaging. Second of all, look at your wife. You're multifaceted as a man. You could be a good businessman, but also have some kinky stuff that you want to do. You're multifaceted. You're not one dimensional. Your wife's the same way. Your wife's the same way. Sit down and have a conversation with her. What are your fantasies? Tell me about them. For some of you guys, it's going to be a hard conversation to have because your wife hasn't felt comfortable to open up with you. If you've gone through the activation method, you guys know the triadic connection. You can throw that in there right away and utilize some of those techniques that we teach you guys. And if you haven't done it, well, you got to figure out a way to communicate in a way that can be delivered and open up that conversation. Because it's a great conversation to have, guys, and it's really fun, especially when you can imagine you living out your fantasies. But what about if you can provide your wife with all of her fantasies? And that's something that's doable for you. And I'll leave you with one more thought, and Tim, I'll throw it back to you, is when I sat down and whiteboarded out with my wife who coaches women, what do married women want? And she filled up that whole huge whiteboard. We did a podcast episode on this, gosh, at the beginning of the year, sometime January, I think. And at the end of it, it all came down to one thing that she said that all women really want. And when it comes down to it, is they want to be a well-fucked woman, right? They want to just be well-fucked. And that goes for everybody, right? Men, we want to as well. But what makes me as a husband feel even better is when I know my wife is a well-fucked woman. And sometimes you got to get over that Madonna whore complex and just put it aside. And I know it's not easy. I was raised a similar way, kind of Judeo-Christian background, and that's just beat into us. But you got to realize your wife wants you to take control. Your wife wants you to take the lead. And in a way that's safe for her, right? And everybody's gonna have different ways, but she's begging that for you.
Yeah, I'm glad you took it that angle. I was thinking about that, so I'm glad you touched on it because it's so true about putting the wife on a pedestal. So true. Without any disrespect, so unnecessary as well. Well, as I say that, you want to put her on the right pedestal, not necessarily the pedestal whereby you become the nice guy and subservient and all the respect goes there and all that stuff. But, you can put her on the right pedestal, the pedestal right beside you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't need to put her on any pedestal, in my opinion, at all. Like, you can treat her as an equal for sure. But what tends to happen is guys start idealizing their wives. That's just not fair to her, right? She's human. She's going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. And when you put her on that pedestal of being the Madonna, you're really limiting her ability to express herself sexually. And now she's suppressing, you're suppressing. It's just a screwed up situation for everybody. And this seems to happen for a lot of us that grew up in religious backgrounds, right? You think about, in particular, the Protestant religion or the Catholic religion, the ones that I'm most familiar with my background. These are like tenets of those religions or the cultures around these religions. And they really get to be broken. And from my experience coaching men and listening to my wife coaching women and kind of getting these two together, the magic that's on the other side is a happier marriage, better parents raising their kids because the parents are happier, the parents are more connected, right? And what a better thing to raise a kid than in a connected home where both parents are happy, they're satisfied sexually, they're getting along, and they're actually connected, right? And from that place, you can do almost anything. And sometimes that starts in the bedroom, at least in my experience. So it doesn't start in the bedroom, but it definitely comes from happiness in the bedroom. And it's not all about sex. It's just the fact that in order to have really great sex in the bedroom, typically you need a lot of other things to happen outside the bedroom to get to that point.
Yes, 100%.
Awesome question, Chief. And I hope that helps you other guys. We can definitely dive into that more and definitely bring that to one of the inner circle calls, my friend. Gentlemen, where in your relationship are you treating your wife like a Madonna or like the whore? And where are you leaking energy where you're going outside of the marriage? Maybe it's porn, maybe it's escorts, maybe it's another woman. It's a fantasy of this girl at Starbucks. I don't know. Where is it that you're going outside of your marriage to get that fantasy fulfilled rather than taking it into your own bedroom at your house with your partner? You don't need to tell me, but you definitely need to figure out for yourself. And then you take that energy, transmute it, and bring it right back into your wife, and you'll see what happens. Gentlemen, as always, take immediate action in a moment of insight, and we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.